a crash, it's really important to stop yourself and think calmly about your situation. Too often people are caught up in the cascade of adrenaline, endorphins, and all the other biological reactions to physical trauma, and they make bad decisions. If you can just slow down, calm down, and take stock of your injuries, puts you in a much better position. Obviously, you need to summon help, and it's very important to be able to prove that you summoned police to the scene, and ideally remain there until the police show up so that they can document that the crash actually occurred. You would be shocked how often, the position of the insurers is just, like if the cops didn't come there, then it didn't happen. You must have fallen off a stepladder in your home changing a light bulb, right? So you end up with those kinds of problems. You need to, even though you wait for the police, don't expect them to do what they're supposed to do, which is to gather information from witnesses and from the scene to establish how the crash occurred. Yeah, they're supposed to do that, but they don't do it. They don't really think of it as their job, and I cannot tell you how many cases I've been involved in where the police, spoke to an eyewitness, took information from them, and then never listed them in the police report, and that person is gone. So you need to collect your own contact information for eyewitnesses. You need to collect the contact information even for the driver, or at least get a picture of their license plate. And you want to try, you may not even be able to get up, but perhaps someone can help you. You want to try to get a picture of the entire scene that show where the car that struck you came to rest, where you came to rest, a whole scene picture, because that is of critical importance in reconstructing how the crash occurred. And when it's a crash not involving a motor vehicle, let's say you wipe out on a construction equipment that's left in the roadway negligently by people doing construction work, or roadway plates that aren't laid properly, you need to be able to show what the condition was like when you fell. The fact is that condition could get repaired in a day or a week after, and if you wait and you go back, the condition isn't there anymore. Maybe the roadway was milled and it was done improperly. You go back, well, that roadway's been repaved. It looks perfect now. And you've got a real problem trying to demonstrate what happened if you don't have pictures to show the conditions that caused you to be harmed. The third thing that you need to do is make sure that you get appropriate and comprehensive diagnostic and medical evaluation and treatment that you need. There is something that happens after a crash where the medical establishment focuses on the most severe injury, which you can certainly understand why they do that. If, your arm's all out of whack and it's obviously fractured and it needs to be set with metal hardware, there's a very short fuse on doing that. They have to do it within 10 days or the bones start to knit together in the wrong alignment. And then if you want to have proper alignment again for your bones, they have to be rebroken and reset. Not something that you want. But severe and obvious injuries require attention, but something that happens often is maybe a fractured wrist will lead to neglect of an injury to the shoulder that involves soft tissue, might not be as immediately apparent, might not be as painful, because if you're not moving your whole arm because you have a badly fractured wrist, you don't even notice that you have bad tears or damage to the cartilage or other softer non-osseous tissue in your shoulder. But then you get your treatment for the wrist, which could be weeks or months in a cast, metal hardware. Any of these types of treatments may really help your wrist, but you've been neglecting what's going on in your shoulder because you didn't even know that it's injured. You're not feeling pain from it because you're not using it because your whole arm has been out of commission with the wrist fracture. So what happens is the second or third or fourth most severe injury that you've suffered gets ignored. It doesn't get the treatment that it needs. And there are two problems with that. One is, obviously, it leads to a poorer recovery because you're not getting attention to an injured body part and it's not being recovered. But secondly, what happens is a lot of times the insurers insurers who have to pay for the treatment to fix these injuries, number 2, 3, or 4 on the list, will say, oh, well, you didn't complain about those in the ER. You didn't raise them in the first week or even the first month after your crash. We don't believe it happened. And hospitals don't necessarily get a comprehensive catalog of all the injuries that a victim comes in. Again, a hospital ER is focused on keeping people alive. They do a pretty good job of it, but they don't focus on cataloging all the different injuries. It's up to you. You may find yourself going to an orthopedist who has a specialty in a very discrete body part. Oh, that's the shoulder guy. Oh, she specializes in wrists and hands like that. And you almost feel ashamed or bashful to say, doctor, my neck hasn't felt the same since the crash. It's very tense. I can't move it to the left and to the right, and you just feel like that's something that's going to clear up, but you know what? It doesn't clear up. And then because you haven't complained about it and asked for it to be treated, the insurer will say, that's not crash related at all. You're just making it up. So here's a trick that I often tell my clients about when they're dealing with a specialist who they think may not be interested in going beyond the one body part they seem most interested in. If you can say to them, doctor, I've had this pain in my neck and I'm wondering, do you have a colleague you can refer me to? So instead of it being like you're telling them to go beyond what they want to do in that 30 or 90 second interaction they're having with you, now it's like, oh, doctor, can you refer me to your colleague so that they can check me out because that's their area of specialty. And in many cases, this treatment is covered by the driver's automobile insurance. And so you're not going to pay for that referral and that further diagnostic evaluation by that fellow specialist in a different area. So doctors love to refer work to their colleagues because that's what makes the world go around, right? It's like everyone's getting to do their job and treat the types of injuries they're most interested in and presumably have the experience and deep expertise in. So don't be afraid of raising issues with a doctor who doesn't seem to specialize in those issues, but be ready to quickly pivot and ask, can you give me a referral? The doctor will make a note of it in their chart. The insurance company will never be able to say, oh, you didn't raise it because it's right there. And then you've got access. You can use that doctor's name. Oh, Dr. Smith referred me to Dr. Jones, the spine doctor, because Jones is a specialist in the spine. And you'll find that it's easier to get through in that office when you're coming through with the name of a colleague to make that appointment and to make it soon so you can get checked out, hopefully find out there's nothing wrong with you that won't just go away or maybe requires limited non-interventionist treatment, but you might find that it's a serious injury that has been neglected by our healthcare system, which tends to focus on things that require surgical treatment and things that fall most squarely within the specialist you happen to be in front of that moment.